It's a red letter day in Sao Paulo. The Brazilians have flocked to Interlagos to cheer on their favourite son. Rubens Barrichello was born just outside this racetrack. His record in his home Grand Prix is poor. Just one finish in 7 starts, but with a Ferrari in his hands, these locals are absolutely convinced this will be Rubinho's day. Hello there, welcome to Interlagos. You know, they haven't had crowds and excitement here since the days of Ayrton Senna. And now Rubens Barrichello, like Senna, a Paulista, a native of Sao Paulo, has a car capable of going all the way. But his opposition today has been reduced by 2 following the very unusual withdrawal of the Sauber team yesterday. Mika Salo emerging unhurt and very shaken after a 180 mile an hour crash. His rear wing had collapsed. Teammate Pedro Diniz had identical problems. He misses his home race as Sauber pull out.
Since we cannot conduct a efficient investigation until we return to Hinwil and cannot therefore effect a satisfactory cure overnight, we also have no option but to withdraw from tomorrow's Brazilian Grand Prix.
I think it's a very brave decision from Peter, but I think also it's right decision. We obviously have a problem with the wings, and it's not safe to continue. So I was lucky this morning not to hurt myself at all, and maybe next time we're not so lucky, because obviously there's still something wrong.
I had a wing failure on my quick lap, and now Sauber decided to withdraw the race because the car is losing the rear wing, and it's very dangerous. So I'm very disappointed.
That really hurts Pedro Diniz, missing his home Grand Prix. Delighted to say we're joined by Jackie Stewart. Jackie, a big campaigner for many, many years for greater safety in this sport. What's your spin on what's happened here this weekend?
Well, I think probably Peter Sauber's done a brave thing, but probably the correct thing, Jim. The track is largely to blame for this. There's not only been one wing failure, 2 in his cars, but the Prost lost a wing this morning. There was a well-established, well-known team who also had 2 wings, part of the structure crack or break on Friday. They resurfaced the racetrack, but what they didn't do was look after the subsidence of the racetrack. And there's an immense amount of pressure being put on certain components, and one of those is the rear wing, which is a very large component, and of course indigenous to the grip of the car. Without it, I mean, it could cause the most horrific accident.
Well, let's hope everything's okay this afternoon, of course. And listen, there are 70,000 plus Brazilians here, all looking towards Rubens Barrichello. He drove for you last year, didn't he? You know him really well, Rubens. Do you think he can deliver here today?
Well, he delivered for us last year, and we let him down.
The European at the
there
Nürburgring,
you see him on the podium. There you see Paul, my son, obviously affected, and Daddy's up there, the first podium I'd been on since I retired as a driver. And Rubens, obviously, is a very talented driver. He led the race for us last year. He put the car in 3rd position on the grid last year for us. He's got the ability to do it. He's got to get through the first corner and the first lap cleanly. He's got to make a good start. The Ferraris are well known for starting well. They seem to have extremely good traction when the lights go off.
You say that with a bit of a glint in your eye.
Well, let's put it this way. There's a lot of speculation as to how quickly they can get off the start line, and they seem to do it with consistency. But Rubens is certainly a very skilled and talented driver. Somebody, I reckon, is certainly going to win a Grand Prix very soon, because he's never won a Grand Prix, and it's going to come this year with Ferrari. Thanks very much, Jackie. By the way, we've got a competition coming up a little bit later on. You can actually win the helmet that Rubens wore in that race at the Nürburgring. Got to welcome Tony Jardine. Hi, Tony. Let's look back at the qualifying session. I mean, it was ruined by the incompetence of the officials here. Advertising hoardings blowing over the circuit, 3 stoppages, but at the end of it all, normal service resumed. Mika Häkkinen on pole again.
Well, the king of qualifying, Mika Häkkinen, he was superb in that. He went out early on and responded to Michael Schumacher's early provisional pole, and he set a 14.4 there. He went out later on and he did a 14.1, which is over 2 seconds inside the pole from last year. The resurfacing has helped a bit, the combination of the tyres and just the new cornering into the first corners. DC's had a very good weekend so far, and he went into second place. It's been reliable so far. He's looking for a birthday present tomorrow, maybe on top of a cup for McLaren. And he's done very well indeed. Very pleased with his performance.
It's very much an away game though for McLaren here, but Hakkinen and Coulthard quickest in warm-up as well. What about Michael Schumacher? Never on pole, but always a threat. Never on pole here, I should say.
Much closer, about 4/10 in it now, and he's closed the gap. Ferrari have closed the gap, and he's talking with confidence, making a lot of noise about that. And of course, Ron Dennis is seeing red about that as well. But early on, he had problems. His trademark overcooking, and Jackie talked after Australia. He was guilty of overdriving. Look at that, caught the curb, and you don't want to be doing that outside of turn one. There's new drainage channels down there, gutters, big curbs, and he had to take the spare car after that. And there, he briefly got second place and ended up with third place in the Ferrari. He said it doesn't matter too much here because I can overtake at this track.
Now, Jackie, Eddie Irvine, I know you came here not expecting too much, perhaps, your Jaguar team, but Eddie Irvine's right up there on the third row for you.
Yes, he qualified sixth fastest. He did a very good job for us. The car's going quite well. The engine's powerful. We had a little bit of unreliability, certainly in Australia, and we haven't had quite the amount of pre-season testing. But Eddie's a very experienced driver. He strung it together. He got his sixth position. We were then affected very heavily by the rain, and I think that did affect the grid lineup. And with all of these advertising hoardings falling down, one of them actually colliding with Jean Alesi's car as it went around the circuit was horrendously dangerous. And, well, the bottom line was practice time was affected and the rain arrived, and we held our sixth position, which is fine. But it's very close from fifth fastest right back to 10th fastest. There's hardly a breath in it.
Okay, Jackie, thank you very much. We're going to be talking to Jenson Button in a moment, by the way. Jenson up there in the top 10. You know, it's ironical and rather disconcerting as we sit here chatting to you from Interlagos that we're surrounded by the favelas, the shanty towns of Sao Paulo. But at the same time, the world of Formula One just gets richer and richer, around about £150 million in sponsorship money alone this year. Here's James Allen.
Renault's acquisition of the Benetton team last week and the influx of new sponsors proves that Formula One has never had it so good. Renault paid the Benetton family £75 million for the team, although the cars won't be rebadged as Renault's until the 2002 season. The French car maker has a wonderful history in Formula One, stretching back to the 1970s. They've won 6 world championships, including the 1995 championship for drivers and constructors with the Benetton team. The man in charge back then was Flavio Briatore, and now he's back in charge, having put this whole deal together. So what's he going to do to revitalise the 5th place team?
Immediately nothing. I believe I don't want to change anything immediately because in Benetton was so many changes in a very short time. I believe we need to give confidence to these people, bring some motivation, some discipline, and the people need to realize I don't want to be 6 in the grid or in front of the toilet in the garage. You know, this is not the position I want for this team.
There's a lot of big business going on in the pit lane. This season has seen more new sponsorship money coming in than ever before, over £150 million from new backers, as well as manufacturer cash from Mercedes, BMW and Jaguar. The reduction of tobacco sponsorship is attracting a new generation of companies from telecoms and the internet who are wading in with serious money, and the trend is set to continue.
It's probably been the most exciting winter from a commercial point of view that Formula One's known in a long time. Lots of new names coming in from new exciting industries, telecoms, internet, computers. It's great. We've grown the sport to such a stage now that nobody can actually afford to ignore it. It's not, you know, an aristocratic rich man's plaything anymore. It's serious business.
Bernie Ecclestone has chosen this moment to sell 50% of his stake for £1.2 billion. Money is rolling in.
Good, obviously, isn't it? There's a lot more, I mean, all the manufacturers are coming in, a lot more new sponsors coming in, just a lot more interest in general.
Bernie is planning a flotation in 2 years' time. Forget the .com gold rush. Formula One is clearly the real business to be in.
Tell you what, Jackie, it's a juicy old game now. Can anybody do what you've done, form your own team and succeed?
I think it's going to become more and more difficult. We did it without the tobacco money, and the tobacco money is still the largest producer of funds within Formula One. But Formula One itself is becoming bigger and better almost every year. Certainly the television audience, for example, is enlarging on a global basis. More than 5.7 billion people watch this race. with delays and satellites, etc.
Good to see in the British racing green. Almost, people tell me, that the Jaguar. What are your expectations for your team today?
The parent company, Ford, bought our business, the Stewart Grand Prix company, last year. They've invested a lot more money in it. We've got a lot more facilities, and it's for that reason we had to sell. If we're going to be competitive with Ferrari and McLaren, we couldn't do it just as a private team. It simply wasn't possible. So it was either tobacco money or selling the company to get the funds, and I think I made the right decision.
And today, quickly, Jackie, what do you expect from your drivers today?
I think if Eddie's running at the end of the race, and we think we've got a reliable car here, I think he will finish in the top 6. And I think Johnny's got a lot in his plate to come through from 17th, but he can finish certainly in the top 10.
Jackie, we always appreciate you joining us. Thanks very much indeed, and all the best this afternoon, of course. Tony, let's have a little talk about the qualifying session, shall we? We've talked about the qualifying. Let's just check on the grid on how things line up on that grid. And there they are at the front again, third year running, Coulthard and Hakkinen.
Yeah, pretty similar to Australia with them both being there, but Hakkinen third consecutive pole at Brazil, and Coulthard very close to him. Ferraris haven't been on pole here in Brazil. In fact, last time they were on pole in Brazil was 85 with Alboreto, but they're on the second row. And on the third row there, you have Irvine, a great performance from him to take 6th place. And Fisichella, under new management there, Briatore fired a few rockets, and they've all responded very well indeed. And we look back there, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, he didn't get good runs in between the rain and the red flags, but Zonta ahead of Villeneuve, significant there. You can see Villeneuve there in 10th. Jenson Button inside the top 10, first time here. Just a fabulous performance from him, tremendous. But can he do the uphill start alongside the world champion? He's going to have to summon all his cool for that start. And his teammate Ralf Schumacher behind him, trouble with spring rates. Jarno Trulli, bad boy, not happy the team because he spun off on his first qualifying lap. Verstappen was 5th today in the warm-up.
Never got a clear run.
No, he suffered from traffic for the second race in a row. And Lazy, who Jackie said suffered from the advertising hoardings falling and across the car, very dangerous. And his rear wing fell off the spare car. Herbert, trouble with the setup back in 17. Genet down there as well. And then Heidfeld, Mazepin closing up at the back of the grid. Nobody at the back, of course. 2 Saubers who have withdrawn.
Good, thank you very much indeed, Tony. Well, the noise you're hearing, the pit lane is open. 25 minutes to go to the start of the Brazilian Grand Prix. But there goes Rubens Barrichello looking to end a very long streak. 113 without a win it is. And they'll blow him round if they can here in Sao Paulo. Well, as we've been saying then, terrific promise from Jenson Button. He had all sorts of problems in practice. He crashed the car. He was short of laps as well. But he still out-qualified his Williams teammate, Ralf Schumacher. That really is a terrific achievement. Here he is then talking to Louise Goodman.
You started the Australian race from 21st on the grid and got up as high as 6th. What can you do starting from 9th?
Starting from 9th is going to be a lot more tense, I think, on the first few laps in the middle of the pack. But I don't know, it'd be good to get to the finish and get in the points, but we'll see. I'm just going to concentrate on getting a good start to start with, and then see what happens after that.
Presumably, in a lot of ways, the higher up the grid you are starting, the easier your job is, but are there any ways that it makes life more difficult?
I'm sure it does on the first lap. The first corner is going to be pretty intense with the cars in front and behind. Before it was just in front, so it's going to be pretty intense, but it's going to be a good experience, and hopefully I'll come out of the corner. Hopefully in front of a couple, we'll see.
You got any worries about mixing it with the big boys?
I think I did with a couple in Melbourne. I think every F1 driver is an impressive driver. So I think I've had a bit of practice that in Melbourne, and it would be nice to be up there with my teammate Ralf and hopefully move up the grid to get some points.
But Melbourne, I mean, you were playing with the guys more at the back of the field. You're actually in there with the quick guys this time. Does that give you any worries at all? Does it make it more exciting? Or?
It does. I can't wait. It's obviously it's very good for experience because I haven't driven against most of the drivers out there. So it's always going to get better, more experience for every race really, and then hopefully after the season I'll be more complete.
We'll be watching him closely, everyone watching Rubens Barrichello. Uphill start for them all, cars going anti-clockwise. It's a real pain in the neck for the drivers. Let's join Jarno Trulli in the Jordan. Martin Brundle talking you round.
You're on scramble with Jarno Trulli in the Jordan over the notorious bumps on the pit straight, about to start a new flying lap. Curve 1. Come from up high, fall down the hill towards the centre S, 60 miles an hour. Initially, Curve de Sol. Should be flat out, it's raining a little bit. 120 on the exit already, a short back straight, slightly downhill towards Descida de Lago, 185 miles an hour. Lose 105 of that now. Turn in quite early, then let the car run wide, using the curb for a bit of extra grip now. Easily flat out through this left-hander. You're heading towards Ferradura. Place the car on the left-hand side. Now listen to Trulli just play with the throttle ever so gently. As he pops over the top of the hill, the back of the car will go slightly light and immediately into turn 8. Just 55 miles an hour, using all of the curb. And we've got to get past this Jaguar. 55 miles an hour again. Pignorino heading slightly uphill to Pico de Pato. Try and break in a straight line once again. Get the car in early. Still a lot of understeer there for Trulli. And downhill towards Merguglio. Can he take it flat out? No, he can't. A slight lift. The car compresses in the bottom of the hill. 150 miles an hour down to 60. Juncao, the most important corner on the track. Again, use all of the track available to you. A nice clean sweep. There's a double left-hander. Move to the outside again. Now down. Tack in the pit lane. Look at the pit wall on the left. Over the bumps and over the start-finish line now.
Thank you, Martin. All those fans know the first corner is absolutely crucial. Coming up, Martin's grid walk and our competition as we gear up for the start in Brazil. Welcome back to Barrichello Crazy Interlagos. The Brazilian Grand Prix is the second race of the new season. Over the winter there have been changes on the cars, and you should really know about the most important developments.
Formula 1 rules haven't changed now for 3 years, which means there are no really big gains to be had in design. The engineers are just looking for nickels and dimes. Everybody's gone now for a hand clutch on the back of the steering wheel instead of the traditional 3-pedal layout. And everybody has also gone for the oil tank between the fuel tank and the engine, an idea first introduced by Stewart, now the Jaguar team. Has a big advantage when it comes to changing engines. You can do it in about 20 minutes flat. It also tidies up the airflow at the back of the car.
All the designers have tried to lower their car's centre of gravity to improve its handling through the corners, and they made them as light as possible as well, some as much as 80 kilograms underweight. They'll then add these ballast blocks to bring the car up to the regulation 600 kilograms. Now the advantage there is that you can move the ballast around the car and change the weight distribution, and that's a really useful tool when it comes to balancing the handling of the car.
Copying someone else's successful ideas is a good shortcut to performance. Trendsetters like McLaren find their ideas replicated down the pit lane. Most have copied the chassis fins, the low nose concept and the front wing design. Jaguar and Sauber have copied Ferrari's high exhausts. If you can't beat them, join them.
The trend in engine design continues towards smaller, lightweight units. Jaguar's new CR2 is the lightest, weighing in at 97 kilos. Manufacturer interest in the sport is high. Honda are back with a works engine, and BMW have returned to the Grand Prix scene. But the most noticeable development on the engine front is the distinctive wail of the new Mercedes. Just listen to this.
Well, there's plenty still to come from engines. There's plenty still to come also from aerodynamics, one of the key growth areas. Most of the teams have their own wind tunnels now, and you can make tiny detail changes, make a lot of difference when added together. Arrows have done some nice work. This is a very smooth aerodynamic car. It's all about getting the air to flow nicely over the top of the car, and the dirty air churned up the front wheels, getting that nicely away at the back.
Sometimes you need to take a step backwards to take 2 steps forward, and that's the case at Benetton this year. The design team have adopted a back-to-basics approach. That temperamental front torque transfer system is gone. The whole aerodynamic package is far simpler, and the car is much more user-friendly. Last year it took the mechanics an hour to change the gear ratios. This year they can do it in 20 minutes, and that means less time spent in the garage and more time spent out on the track.
When it comes to computers, the future is already here. This tag unit designed for McLaren is part of the most powerful computer ever seen on a racing car. About 4 times the power of your home PC. Just this bit here is 35 grand. What's really cool is it's part of an internet. All the different computers controlling the different functions of the car, and they're all talking to each other.
Thank you, James. Well, now the competition I told you about at the start of the programme. Watch very carefully. You'll want to get your hands on the big prize. It's your chance to own a little piece of F1 history. Local hero Rubens Barrichello's actual race helmet, complete with sweat and tears, as he clinched third place at last year's European Grand Prix. And we're throwing in a Sony PlayStation with an F1 game for the winner and for the 5 runners-up. All you've got to do is answer this Rubinho-related question. With which Grand Prix team did Rubens Barrichello begin his Formula 1 career? Was it A, Jordan, B, Lola, or C, Stewart? A, Jordan, B, Lola, C, Stewart. The number to call, 0900 1 22 99 66. 0900 1 22 99 66. Don't hang around, the lines close at midnight on Wednesday. The very best of luck to you all, and we'll announce the winners at Imola in a couple of weeks' time. Well, then let's go down to a former teammate of Rubens Barrichello. What a fantastic atmosphere here at Interlagos. Of course, it's Martin Brundle. Martin.
Hello, yeah, thank you, Jim. This is my favourite grid of the year, without any doubt. It's like being in a very intimate, private theatre. Look at the fans. They're just looking down on top of the Formula 1 cars. You can barely see them for people. We'll have a little wander down in a minute. I just want to show you what the drivers are going to see at the beginning of the race. This is their run to the first corner there, and it doesn't seem very far, does it? But it's quite a good sprint. Let's head down the grid, Keith, and see what we can find. There's an enormous amount of work going on the cars. They seem to have been spending all morning putting them together. They come to the grid and they pull them apart again. Look, all the computers and laptops, they're still finally adjusting and checking the cars. Can you see the fan on the engine blowing air into the engine over there? And they're covering the car up. Look, covers over the back of the car. They don't want the competition. This is the one time that the Formula 1 cars are really exposed for all of the other teams to come and have a look. So the team are working underneath that car, underneath the covers, look, trying to make sure people like us can't pry into them. Let's have a little wander down the grid. There's Mika Häkkinen. We spoke to him, of course, in Melbourne. Mika just wondering about, look, he's got his ears, he's taped his earplugs in to his ear to make sure they don't rattle out as he goes through the race, particularly as you get a bit hydrated. Surprising how loose they can get. Let's see if we can have a quick word with Coulthard, front row sitter. If I can you get through there? Pete? DC, sorry to surprise you. Are you just undressing or dressing?
No, you're here, undressing, I guess.
How sweet of you. How's it going? You've got a great view down in the first corner, and second on the grid's not such a bad thing here, is it?
No, it's obviously there's a little more dust on the inside, but you can see from the sort of yellow plank marks that some people have run over this side of the track. So it's still possible to make a good start.
Yeah, okay, well, good luck. You need some points today, yeah? And
that's what we're going for. Make sure we get some points this weekend.
Excellent. Good luck, mate. See you later on. Let's have I think we're going to have to go this way, past the tyre trolley here, where they've got generators running, keeping the blankets. Look, the blankets are just coming off. They've got to have those tyres on the car before the 5-minute board. If not, they can't start the race. So generators keeping the tyres warm, so they come to the grid on an old set of tyres to make sure that they can't pick up punctures. So the fresh tyres going on now. I want to just wander down here, come past the Ferraris. Look, they look gorgeous here on the second row of the grid. I'm sure they wish they were on the first row. Michael Schumacher says he really doesn't mind being here, and he told me again last night he doesn't mind being third on the grid, but I still don't believe him, actually. I've got just a little bit of time left. I wonder if I've missed Irvine. No, I haven't missed Irvine. Nearly walked past. Edmund, tell you what do you want to know?
What strategies is your boy on?
My boy's on a strategy that could win the race. What about you? You got a chance?
Of winning the race?
Yeah.
Hey, you've always got a chance in Formula 1. You just never know what's going to happen. We keep qualifying reasonably well. We just got to, we got to see what happens in the race. But we're in uncharted waters, basically. We don't know what will happen.
Right, we've got 10 seconds left. What do you think is going to happen today?
Well, if McLaren keep up their work, McLaren are doing their best to give it to Ferrari again, aren't they?
Oh, that's the same.
Let's hope they keep up the good work.
The same story as last year. Good luck anyway. Okay, back to you in the studio.
Yeah, well done, Martin, squeezing a few words out of Eddie Irvine there. And, well, you've got to feel sorry for that fella. Pedro Diniz should have been in the Sauber, but they, of course, have withdrawn from the race, just to underline that for you. OK, let us hear from Louise again, shall we? She has more on those Prost problems that Jackie Stewart was talking about.
Prost have confirmed they will race today despite Alesi's incident. The wing on the T car was an older specification and the team are confident the problem will not affect the two race cars. But was it a difficult decision?
It's always a difficult decision, but I would not send the drivers if I was not very confident.
And the drivers are quite happy?
Yes. As soon as they understand, and we showed them the problem, and yeah, they are quite happy.
The last man to win in a Ferrari here. Fisichella has been going pretty well in the Benetton. Interlagos, Sao Paulo, a magnificent racetrack though. The McLaren record here quite superb. 9 victories in all, including back-to-back trophy triumphs for Hakkinen in the last couple of years. 10 years since that Ferrari win with Alain Prost. We have 3 British drivers in the top 10, Coulthard, Irvine and Button. The first corner is absolutely crucial. You won't want to miss a second of the Brazilian Grand Prix.